Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Evaṁ me sutaṁ ekang samayang bhagava Varanasiyang viharati ise patane migadaye. Venerable Chief Naikahandro and Venerable Sir, friends and children in the Dhamma, welcome for our Saturday Dhamma talk. We are continuing the series of Dhamma talks based on the first ever sermon of the Lord Buddha, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Last week we narrated certain facts, certain legends behind the teaching of this sutta. And today we are going to begin with the explanation of the name of this sutta, which is Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Chakka. Chakka is the wheel. Now, Lord Buddha gave the opportunity for the followers to create a symbol to represent his teachings, his Dhamma, which is a wheel. Not that the Buddha suggests that he needs a symbol to represent his teachings, the Dhamma, but the followers, based on this particular Dhamma talk, first Dhamma talk, they decided that the Buddha's teaching must be represented by this wheel. And later on, it got so important during the times where they were not so dare to create an image of the Buddha. The Buddha was represented, depicted by this symbol, the Dhammacakka. And it got so important. It was so significant for the Buddhists during those days in India, during the times of King Dhammacakkappavattana. It was his symbol. It was the symbol of King Dhammacakkappavattana to represent himself and to represent his mission of propagating the teachings of Buddha, the Dhammacakkappavattana. Today, India, their flag is nothing but the Dhammacakkappavattana. The Dhammacakkappavattana used by or created by King Dhammacakkappavattana is the symbol now for the Indian flag. So such a importance given to the wheel, given to the chakra, in Buddhism and all the other related affairs with the Buddhism. Why chakra? What is the purpose? What is the reason behind this? That Buddha just thought about a chakra? No, it was not just a mere intentional, deliberated idea behind for the creation of this chakra. We all know that he was born to a warrior clan. Warfare is their major concerns. As a warrior prince, Prince Siddhartha was taught all the arts and crafts, all the affairs related to the battleground. The way to fight, the way of fighting, the way of handling those machineries. By the time of age 16, Prince Siddhartha was a fully fledged warrior, an Indian samurai. He is a warrior. And that inner warrior was never gone. His struggle during the effort for the enlightenment, that inner warrior was the one who is continuing that struggle, continuing the effort. That inner warrior was there always with him. So as a warrior, Prince Siddhartha was well known, known well about the machineries utilized in the warfares. One of the machines they used was called Chakrayuda. Ayudha is the weapon, Chakra is the wheel. Now this Chakrayuda is not limited for just Buddhism, but also in Hinduism there is this mention of Chakrayuda. The weapon of Vishnu is Chakrayuda. He is the bearer of this chakra, which is to be missiled, thrown towards the enemies that he aspired to destroy. Now this Chakrayuda has this function that it has blades attached, and when they rotate this weapon, the wheel, which is with the blades, amongst the enemies, what happens is whosoever in the vicinity get cut into pieces, get destroyed. Now Lord Buddha has a very vivid knowledge about this weapon and the way it works. He has seen it. Maybe he has been trained how to use that weapon, the Chakrayuda. After the enlightenment, when he think about his technique that helped him to attain the liberation from the enemies of Nibbana. Enemies of Nibbana means friends of samsara. This technique, this middle path that he followed, that he walked upon, assisted him to destroy the enemies of Nibbana, To be liberated from the liberation, enemies of liberation. To be liberated from the enemies of Nibbana, that his technique was supporting him. So this technique is like destruction, disaster for the enemies. Cut down the enemies of Nibbana, which are the defilements. Cut down the defilements, the kleshas. So since this technique destroys the enemies of Nibbana, and he gave the name, this is like a chakra. I'm pretty sure that he must have remembered the weapon, the Chakrayuda, that he is familiar with during the days as a prince. So he gave this idea that this Dhamma is like a wheel, and when it rotates, the enemies of Nibbana get destroyed. Here rotation of the Dhamma is nothing but the teaching of the Dhamma. Teaching of the Dhamma was enough for somebody to get onto the path of Nibbana, get onto the supramundane path, listening to the Dhamma. Let that Dhamma come into you in its pristine mode, in its original mode. Let that Dhamma come into you. Become vulnerable to that Dhamma. Then that Dhamma will destroy the enemies within, and you are liberated. This is Dhammacakkappavattana. Pavattana or pravartana in Sanskrit is rotation, rotating of the Dharma chakra. Now this term is relationship with the term arahat. Arihata arahat. Ari is the enemy. Hat, destroyed. Enemies are destroyed. The one who destroyed the enemies is arahat. We all know now who are these enemies. The defilements, kleshas, which bind individuals into the recurring process of samsara. These enemies of Nibbana are destroyed. That's why he is called the Arihat. Arihat, the one who has destroyed the enemies of Nibbana. So that Arihat is in a relationship with the Dhammacakka. When that Dhammacakka is rotating within, it functions like a Chakrayuda and destroys the enemies of Nibbana. Dhammacakkappavattana. He designated this sutta with this term for the reason today, on that day, was the day that he began to rotate this wheel of Dhamma. And the suttas that followed, all the teachings for 45 years that followed, was on this singular purpose. All the words that came out from the Buddha were nothing but targeting this same purpose, that whosoever in the audience, if they become vulnerable to those words, if they allow those words to come into their system, into their being, inner being, those words of Buddha will function like a Chakrayuda within. This Dhammacakka within, when it is rotating within, the enemies of Nibbana just vanishes, just get destroyed, and he becomes liberated. He becomes free from them. He is enlightened. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So understand, it is not just the beginning of Dhamma talks. That is why it is the wheel of rotation of the wheel of Dhamma. No, it is not just a rotation. This rotation of this turning the wheel of Dhamma is for the simple purpose of destroying the enemies of Nibbana. This Dhammacakka represents that Chakrayuda, but in a spiritual manner. Chakrayuda destroys human beings, which is absolutely sinful and against the noble qualities in the individuals. But this Dhammacakka, it also functions in the same manner, but manifests as liberating individuals from the spiritual enemies, liberating individuals from the bondages to the ever-recurring process of birth and death, liberating and enlightening people. This Dhammacakka functions and manifests. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is the name of this sutta. And we know the sutta begins, Evang me sutang. Thus, Evang me, by me, sutang is heard. Thus have I heard. Now, whose words are these? For sure we know these are not the words of the Buddha, because these are the words who repeated what he heard. So, he begins to narrate the sutta saying, this is how I heard when the Buddha was teaching. And whose words are these? These are the words of Venerable Ananda, who was the chief attendant of the Lord Buddha. But Venerable Ananda came into Buddhism much later. During the first Dhamma talk, only 5 human beings were attending. The rest of the beings who attended are the divine beings and the Brahmas. Only 5 human beings. Just a simple amount. Kondanya, Wappa, Badiya, Mahanama, Asaji. These just 5 ascetics were listening to him. Venerable Ananda was nowhere to find. So how is for him to say that this is what the Buddha said? Thus have I heard. He has no right to say. One of these 5 monks should say, not Venerable Ananda. Then how could he say, this is what I heard? Because when Venerable Ananda was appointed by the Buddha himself as the chief attendant, caretaker for the aging Buddha. Buddha was aging. He is getting old. So he needed an assistant to help him, to take care of him, to manage his business. Venerable Ananda was appointed, and after the appointment, he accepted it, and he made some demands and requests. One of the requests was Buddha has to repeat him whatsoever Dhamma that he taught in Venerable Ananda's absence. So Lord Buddha, wheresoever to whosoever a Dhamma talk happened to done, he has to repeat that Dhamma talk for Venerable Ananda. Why? Because Venerable Ananda had this great compassion and that future vision. What would happen to the world once the Lord Buddha, the Bhagavan, is gone? No more. What would happen to the world? The world will miss the beautiful words of the Lord Buddha. I have a great memory, a fantastic memory. So I can memorize them with details, with context. So I can repeat them. I can repeat and make others remember. And generation to generation, they will by heart these words, and then the future generations will be benefited even after we are gone. Such a vision he had for future. That's why he wanted to memorize all the teachings of Buddha. So Buddha must have repeated him the Dhamma talk he gave as his first ever sermon. And Venerable Ananda remembered that, keeping it in memory. So, though he was not there when the Buddha was giving his first sermon, Venerable Ananda must have requested the Buddha to teach him that first sermon again. So Venerable Ananda has the right to say, thus have I heard. Evam me sutang. Now these three words are not something that we can just get the meaning and forget. It is presenting a great significance in it. Now, Venerable Ananda listened to the Buddha himself. He was in the presence of the Buddha. Buddha was teaching and he was listening. He could have easily said, this is what the Buddha said. This is what the Buddha told. But he doesn't say that. He says, this is what I heard. These three words are enough to judge on this venerable monk about his humility, about his humble nature. How humble he was. Such a humble man. Because he knew himself. Who was he? He was not an arahant. He was just a sotapanna, stream enterer. He was not an arahant. Buddha is an arahant. What is meant by the word, the meaning that he meant remains with the Buddha. Only the word came to him. I listened to the word. Meaning remains with the Buddha. So, indirectly, Venerable Ananda is saying, I really do not know what the Buddha really meant. Because I just heard the word. I memorized it. What is meant by that word remains with the Buddha. So giving the audience the opportunity for them to understand, comprehend as they wish, as they feel right, according to their intelligence. Venerable Ananda saying, this is what I heard. When you listen to these words, you may hear in a different manner. Now, this kind of freedom to comprehend as each and every individual prefer, is given in Buddhism. There is nothing wrong with it. Buddha himself has presented it. These words are coming out of an enlightened being, of a being who has established in the supramundane realm. We are in the mundane. He is on the top of the mountain. We are at the foot of the mountain. What we see is just limited to a vision like a frog in the well. But the Buddha's vision is expanded million times than us. So what is his idea behind the words only remains with him. He cannot convey that idea. He gives just the word. It is up to us to convey, to comprehend what the Buddha actually meant. That freedom is given. Due to this freedom in Buddhism, after the Buddha's passing away, 32 schools of Buddhism came out in India itself. For the reason each and every individual interpret what they learned from the Buddha according to their levels of comprehension, according to the backgrounds they grew up, according to the education levels they had, according to the intelligence that they possessed. They judged, they interpret, they comprehend, and they created schools. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Everything is given the opportunity. Everyone is given the opportunity to comprehend according to their capacity of comprehending. Evang me sutang. Thus have I heard. This is how I heard. You may hear in a different manner. Such a humble man, Venerable Ananda. Evang me sutang ekang samayang bhagava. On one occasion, ekang samayang, Bhagava, the Blessed One, This is the term we can find the suttas. This third person identity, Bhagava, is the one that the other followers, his disciples, the people in the country addressed the Buddha as Bhagava, Bhagava. Bhaggaragoti Bhagava. One who has destroyed raga is Bhagava. Bhaggadosoti Bhagava. One who destroyed anger is Bhagava. Bhaggamoho ti Bhagava. One who destroyed delusion is Bhagava. So whosoever given this designation, this epithet, Bhagava, is the one who destroyed raga, dosa, moha, greed, hatred, delusion. Ekang samayam Bhagava. On one occasion, the Blessed One, Varanasiyang Viharati isi patane migadaye. The location is given. Varanasi. Varanasi. Today, after around 1967, Varanasi is designated, given the name Varanasi. Varanasi. But before that it was called Varanasi or Benares. Prior to the designation, prior to the name Varanasi, it was called Kasi. Kasi, meaning the light, the city of light. But later this name was given, Varanasi was given, because this city was situated at a junction where the two rivers of Varuna and Asis was joining. Varuna was a huge, vast river, but Asis was a small river. These two rivers were joining in this Uttar Pradesh, in this location, and where it was joining, on the banks, a city was created, and this city was called Varanasi, Varanasi or Benares. Long before that it was called the Kasi, the city of light, city of luminosity. They are famous for clothing. They created the most valuable clothes at that time in India. Even today, people go there to buy those valuable, shining clothes in Kasi, Benares, Varanasi. So the major area, the city was Varanasi, Varanasi, Varanasi. Evang me sutang ekang samayang Bhagava. Thus I have heard on one occasion Bhagava, the Blessed One, Varanasiyang, in Varanasi, Viharati, residing in Varanasi. Now the exact location is Isipatane Migadaye. Two words are there for this location, the exact location. Isipatana Migadaya. Isipatana is formed out of two words, it's a conjunction which is isi and patana. Isi are the sages, patana falling down. Where the sages fell down is isipatana. Actually, it was not falling down. It is where those sages, when they were walking in the sky with their psychic powers, to rest, to take some rest, they went down to this place. And after the resting, they came up and went back again. So since the sages went down and went up in this particular place, people used to call this place Isi Patana. It's a park. It's a park where the deer was abundant, because the king of that country had given the freedom for the population of deer in this particular area. The king has given the order that no one should kill any deer who lives in this park. So this park was a kind of a sanctuary for the deer who could roam around freely without harm. That's why when we depict the Buddha giving his first sermon in Migadaya, they always depict with few deers around sitting down. It was a deer park, Migadaya. Miga is deer. Tatra ko bhagava panchavagye bhikkhu amantesi. Now what happened in this Migadaya in Isipatana? Tatra, there, Bhagava, the Blessed One, Panchavagye Bhikkhu. Panchavagye Bhikkhu. The 5 kinds of monks. Bhikkhu here usually translated as monks. But we all know that these 5 ascetics are not ordained under the Buddha's dispensation yet. They haven't even accepted that Buddha is capable of showing the path to Nibbana. They haven't totally accepted it. I mentioned to you in my last talk, they just accepted that Buddha is someone who never lies, who never say a lie. So with that trust, they were convinced that Siddhartha Gautama must have achieved something superhuman. They were convinced, but not so totally. Not yet. But since they trust Siddhartha Gautama is someone who never say a lie, if he is saying that he is enlightened now, he must have been enlightened. Only that trust is there. But they are not so sure whether his teaching is capable of enlightening them or not. But in the Sutta, Panchavagye Bhikkhu, the 5 monks, the designation is given as they are already monks. They are ascetics, but not Buddhist monks, not Buddha's disciples. Then why Bhikkhu? Because it was a term used to designate someone who lives the household life, someone who lives the secular life in the fear of repeating process of birth and death, in the fear of samsara. That's why the term is given, the bhikkhu. Sansare bhayang ikkatiti bhikkhu. One who is afraid of the danger in the samsara. Danger in the eternally continuing process of suffering. Seeing that danger, who leaves the worldly affairs and search the spiritual joy, happiness, bliss, is the one who is bhikkhu. So whosoever in search of a liberation, search of a nibbana, search of cutting short the process of samsara, whosoever in search of such a spiritual goal can be designated, can be called as a bhikkhu, though the bhikkhu was usually utilized to name the Buddha's disciples. We can see that this term is not just for the Buddha's disciples, but for anyone who is afraid of the suffering, misery in the cycle of birth and death. So Panchavagye Bhikkhu Amantesi. He addressed the 5 kinds of monks. Evang me sutang ekang samayang bhagava. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One, Bhagava, Varanasiyang viharate sipatane migadaye, was residing in the city of Varanasi, Benares, in Isipatana, where the sages fall down, Migadaya, where the deer given freedom while residing there, Tatra, there, Bhagava, the Blessed One, that Blessed One, Tatra ko Bhagava, that Blessed One, there. Panchavagye Bhikkhu Amantesi, addressed the group of 5 monks, Kondanya, Vappa, Badya, Mahanama, Asaji. He addressed this group of 5 monks. That's enough for today. Let's share all our merits together with Devas and the departed ones. Akasatta cha bummatta devanaga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanam. Akasatta cha bummatta devanaga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanam. Akasatta cha bummatta devanaga mahindika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanam. Idang me nyatinang hotu Sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātinam hotu. Sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñātinam hotu. Sukhita hontu ñātayo. Blessings for you. Dukkharoga bhayavera soka sabbe upaddava anekantaraya pi vinassantu ca tejasa jaya siddhi dhanang labhang sotti bhagyang sukhang balang sirya yuca vanno ca bhogang uddhi ca yasava satavassa ca ayu ca jiva siddhi bhavantu te ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminate samijjato. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I wish you all a good night.